Adam Lazul, very prescient with that prediction, not only for the teaser trailer for Rise of Shadows, but also day one of the Hearthstone Grandmasters, because things are about to go boom. We have Muzzy from the USA representing Radiance up against Fr0zen from the USA representing Team Liquid. And these are two organizations trying to really put their stamp into the esports annals, as Team Liquid, of course, one of the most prestigious organizations out there, but maybe Muzzy and Radiance and Just Saying can put together why their organization should be one to be feared.
Yeah, and Team Liquid also just coming off a big victory overnight in the mid-season invitational for League of Legends. So looking to add a week 1 victory for Fr0zen for Hearthstone on top of that. Equally prestigious.
1-0 start.
At least from our perspective here on this Hearthstone Grandmasters desk. A 1-0 start, definitely better than qualifying to the finals. But
absolutely.
Yeah, Radiance, a new organization, I believe started by Hai, who's was a longtime member of Cloud9 and FlyQuest recently. So I'm curious to see their foray into competitive Hearthstone, and they picked up 2 of the best players you could possibly imagine in the Americas region with Muzzy.
Absolutely. I mean, how much can you really say about Muzzy without bringing up the fact that he has 3 years running being the effective points leader for the Americas? In 2017 and 2016, he was #1, and then 2018/2019 year, he was second, but because Saiyan had already qualified through a normal championship, Muzzy was able to get that #1 points earner spot. However, there is also a lot to be desired. Muzzy's been exiting in the group stages of the World Championship, and he said, you know what? This year wasn't my year, last year wasn't my year, but I'm not going to give up until I'm able to overcome my weakness, which is being eliminated early despite qualifying for some of these really prestigious events.
Yeah, one-pack Muzz is what they call him. They've been calling him that for years. Literally years at this point. And also, Muzzy is moving in with Just Saying in Southern California, which is...
is that finally happening?
Yes. Well, I don't know how soon or when it's going to take place, but they were determined on it, which is cool, having a practice partner there that you can talk Hearthstone with pretty much all day, every day. And they also said they wanted to make some lifestyle changes, get out and do things in the world, go for hikes. I don't know, that's literally all he said.
Going outside?
Going outside.
Exposing my epidermis to the sun.
That's right, Dan.
I have enough vitamin D. I make sure to take supplements so I don't have to go outside. All jokes aside, though, I think San and Muzzy being able to move in together just goes to show you just like how important it is to have those practice partners. I know right before this we were talking about how Kalento is joking that he doesn't have friends, he doesn't need friends.
Yeah.
But honestly, when you put such sharp minds together, it's going to be it has a synergistic effect on both sides. Now you contrast that with Fr0zen. We haven't seen Fr0zen in a little over a year, largely because he took last year to explore doing things in Hearthstone related in China. He was doing a lot of commentary. Fr0zen also runs his own tournament series alongside his father at his organization there. And it's just cool to see him take a more holistic approach to engaging in the Hearthstone community. Fr0zen's not just a competitor, he's also a caster, admin, organizer, and just generally large part of the community, even though he's not always in front of the camera.
And TitanR recently kind of formed a team around it and started picking up players. I believe Xiao T was on TitanR, representing TitanR at the World Championship. So definitely a big involvement in the scene. But I think it's time to start talking about some deck lists, Dan.
All right. Looks like we're getting ready for the first match to start here. Let's take a look a little bit at Muzzy's Bomb Warrior. 3 of the most important cards are things related to the bomb synergy, as well as just having Dr. Boom, Mad Genius. We've seen it on full display on ladder. We've seen it in tournaments, and you'll see it here in Grandmasters. The hero card is extremely powerful, mainly for its battle cry to give all of your mechs rush. This is the legendary hero card from the Boomsday Project. Now, the big difference will be the deck lists of the secondary and tertiary decks. But very quickly, looking at Muzzy's deck list at a glance, is there anything in particular you see here, TJ, that stands out to you?
No, not necessarily. This is just kind of the straightforward Bomb Warrior control hybrid list. It doesn't go all in with C4 and Bombers or like Captain Greenskin, which was in Bomb Warriors early on. It's just to kind of make sure that you have the good matchup against Rogue, while also making sure that you have the bomb package for decks like, say, Nomi Priest that you had mentioned, or to give you maybe a little bit of an edge against Mage, which we're seeing the secondary and tertiary decks kind of looking at targeting other specific things. And we're, like you said, we're not showing it here, but the big difference, Muzzy's secondary deck, which is the one that is targeted at other warriors, has 2 Baleful Bankers, 2 Hecklebots, and an Archivist Elysiana.
He's ready to go the distance.
He is ready to go the distance, having a lot of extra gas. And this is the secondary deck that I was talking about, and you can see against pretty much any other strategy that he could go up against with Warrior. He's got Hecklebots in case someone techs in a Mechathune. He's got Hecklebot in case someone else techs in an Archivist Elysiana like he did. And then Baleful Banker actually has kind of the double synergy by being able to go even further into the infinite with Archivist Elysiana, or even having additional shots at Hecklebot if you shuffle those back into your deck. So it's a very interesting secondary deck coming out from Muzzy in Specialists.
Yeah, very control heavy. It's funny that there's segregation of the legendaries on one side and the non-legendaries on the other. I dream of a day that we don't have to have apartheid with our deck lists, but part of the reason why is because these are all high impact. Let's take a look at Fr0zen's deck list. This is his main one. You can see some of the differences. A Whirlwind inclusion with 1 less Town Crier, or he has, say a second Dino Nomadic compared to the Clockwork Goblin. These are all minor differences to address. Whether or not Fr0zen felt like he was going to face more aggressive strategies, need a little bit more anti-aggro tools, versus Muzzy, who is a little bit more on the consistency side of doubling up on Town Criers, for example, doubling up on Clockwork Goblins. So that way his strategy is much more streamlined.
Yeah, and again, the focus here for Fr0zen kind of has to be on the secondary deck, because his primary deck is very similar to Muzzy's. There's only a 2-card difference. Fr0zen's secondary deck has the Mechathune Geppetto Joybuzz Undertaker package.
Yes, TJ lost this deck.
I lost this as right before the broadcast.
While he was watching the Europe Grandmasters.
Yeah, basically you can play Mechathune early on in the game. You can play it on 10. Your opponent kills it. Later on in the game, you play Undertaker, you interrage it, and you devastate it. So that's once you're out of cards, a Mechathune guaranteed, because you don't have any other death rattles to kind of plug up the pool for Undertaker. So it's a great kind of move for Specialists, since you don't need that many cards to activate that combo. But against Muzzy's double Hecklebot list, later on in the game,
hold on to Mechathune in his opening hand.
I don't know about this. This is a very interesting dynamic. Now, game 1 could go to either player. They're both very similar lists. Comes down to play, comes down to where your Dr. Boom is, effectively. And then games 2 and 3, potentially, when they inevitably queue their secondary decks, that's when it gets interesting, because it's this weird dance between, will Hecklebot pull Mechathune, or will Fr0zen be able to get that early on and be able to use it to great effect. So I don't even know who to call in this one. It's always weird with Warrior Mirror matchups in any universe. I don't know. It's going to be a very interesting day, to say the least.
Yeah, it's going to be a long day. I mean, we're not going to shy away from the fact that Warrior versus Warrior takes a long time. And on average, Warrior games last a little bit over twice as long as the normal length of a Hearthstone game. Then you add the fact that there's going to be a mirror, which changes not only, of course, the dynamic of Warrior going up against a slow deck, but the fact that both these decks can even utilize slower tools like Archivist Elysiana as the game goes on. So I think for this first series, it might end up being a very slow first game, but games 2 and 3, it might be a lot faster because Fr0zen has that Mechathune win condition.
Yeah. But don't worry, Dane and I will be here every step of the way to share your excitement, to share your pain, to share in your memes,
your joy,
and to try and keep you entertained as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, if anything, just laugh at us.
Yes.
Laugh at our pain. Only just because sometimes there comes to be a scenario early on where both players hit the legendary turn limit in Hearthstone, TJ.
Oh, yes.
And so if the game goes to 90 turns on both sides, then the game will automatically force both heroes to explode. What happens in that case?
When both heroes explode, as per the Grandmasters rules, both players are awarded a win and a loss. So, for example, in this game number 1, if it had gone to turn timer, the series would be tied 1-1 going into game number 2. Now, if you can't resolve that with an accurate match winner, so for example, if the series is tied 1-1 already and both heroes explode because of the turn limit, then the player with the highest combined health and armor will be declared the winner of that final match. So that's another thing that kind of has to play into your mind when talking about games that could potentially go to the turn limit, which game number 1, it doesn't. It doesn't really have the potential to go to turn limit because Archivist Elysiana is not in either of these players' primary lists. But it is something to talk about considering the fact that it is in one of these players' secondary lists. But I don't think that'll be relevant for this particular matchup, but could be later on in the day. Mechathune does speed things up a slight amount when considered in Warrior mode.
Still need to get through the deck, still needs to be able to chunk through most of the armor if you're Muzzy trying to pressure Fr0zen, which he has. The second Clockwork Goblin does allow him to have more consistency to play on curve. Now, one thing that you might have already noticed is that Fr0zen had the opportunity to play cards at every juncture of his turn. So he had the option to drop the Turning Rover, had the option to shield block. Muzzy, the same thing, has the ability to go for shield block. But because this game, because this matchup often goes to fatigue, you don't want to actually accelerate your game plan unnecessarily. So oftentimes playing shield block in a warrior versus warrior, specifically a slow defensive warrior, can lead to disaster. The big thing, Muzzy has that Dr. Boom Genius already, and he's able to squeeze out value in things like Dynomatic. Is very nice because most of the deck consists of mechs.
There is one counter argument to accelerating your game plan. Since both these players are not playing the fatigue variant, they're both playing just straight up Bomb War with no Archivist Elysiana and no Mechathune, nothing late game. You do need to make sure that you find your power cards. Fr0zen currently does not have Dr. Boom Mad Genius in his hand, which is a big tool for generating value in the later stages of the game. If Muzzy is able to get his Dr. Boom rolling quicker, then he's got a significant advantage. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with the kind of do nothing and wait for your opponent to play things to react and the not draw cards plan. Because if you do that, your hand's going to get clogged up with the double Acolyte of Pain, the double shield block, the Harrison Jones. You got to do something, and I feel like trying to match your opponent's proactive plays with your own proactive plays is honestly the best way to go about it, and hope that you can navigate those late game turns just a little bit better to eke out a little more value. And that's why I think that we are going to be seeing just kind of a straightforward game and not anything fancy with both players trying not to draw.
Yeah, well, Fr0zen does end up going for that card draw. He doesn't actually have a way to capitalize off of Blastmaster Boom for a long time. Even if this Clockwork Goblin gets played, it summons only 2 Boom Bots. And what's a 7/7 Dr. Boom that summons 2 Boom Bots? That's one from Goblins versus Gnomes. That's outdated. This is 2019. We play with at least 6 Boom Bots.
Yes, we do. But Fr0zen's list, like you mentioned, does have only a single Clockwork Goblin and the Double Wrench Caliber. So the consistency at which he can put bombs into the deck of Muzzy is not that great. All right, we got a game in our hands.
That's another thing to consider too. Fr0zen drawing 1 card deeper means he hits the Dr. Boom a little bit quicker, and that's like that's a massive deal. I think he would have fallen very far behind had Muzzy played Dr. Mad Genius and be able to leverage hero power. And now it's an equal game.
Yes, it is.
Both players having rush on all their mechs also means that it's going to be very difficult to stick a board. There are going to be a couple of impactful mech minions that can help change the course of outcome. One of them is Beryllium Nullifier. It's a 7-mana 2/8, 3/8?
3/8.
Untargetable minion based off spells and hero powers, and that makes it very difficult to shield slam. It's a mech, so things like Dynomatic can't remove it. It just gives you a bunch of health and stats. So if either player picks up that through a Mega Assembly or Delivery Drone, that might be a difference maker here.
Yeah, especially if you can slap that bad boy onto a Scrap Hound and gain 5 armor every time you attack with it. It forces your opponent to have to usually take a 50-50 brawl, or in the case of the Summon 3 Mech Hero Power, like a 3 and 4 brawl. But that's ideal, right? That's like the ideal scenario for trying to deal with big minions like that. And honestly, there's a couple other mechs that we have to talk about when we're thinking of a Mega Assembly plus a delivery drone. Mecha'thun. This game, with both players having Dr. Boom on 7, because they can trade back and forth, is likely going to get to fatigue or close to fatigue. And that's when having a Mecha'thun could just be the ultimate tool against a deck like Muzzy and Fr0zen's, which both don't have any silences available. So Mecha'thun could be a very late game plan if they were to get it from Delivery Drone or from a Mega Assembly.
That's a good point. And I think, speaking of a Mega Assembly, I think Muzzy's going to try and distribute his resources accordingly so that a Mega Assembly can give him maximum cards. Right now he's got 7, so in the next 2 turns he would have to ditch at least 1 card to make room for the Mega Assembly mechs. So he could pass and then play another card on the next turn. When I say pass, of course he wants to eliminate this Dynamatic through a hero power. But there's no rush. Well, there is rush on mechs, but there's no need to be too hasty.
Until hasty becomes a keyword. And then I'm out of words. I'm completely out of...
Hasty, fastly.
There's no need to be fastly. There we go.
2 wrench calibers. And yeah, I mean, the bomb damage is nice, but I mean, it's not going to be what decides the game most of the time.
Yeah, it can keep your opponent's life total in check, and in a matchup like this, as we talked about, it definitely has the possibility to go to fatigue. If you can amass a bigger armor total than your opponent, then you can often take a lead. But then there's also like this weird situation where once you get to fatigue, if you can unleash a big flurry of bombs when your opponent has very little cards left, you keep their armor total in check in a weird way because they can't answer it immediately, and it takes some time to build that back up. So.
All right, well, Muzzy thinking about if he wants to ditch a card here because he goes to 9 next turn, and a Mega Assembly gives you 3 mechs. So if you're at 8 cards, that's the sweet spot. So he wants to play a card kind of now, but at the same time, he could also play a card next turn and most likely play a cheap mech with it. So if he chooses to hold on to this Militia Commander, I wouldn't blame him, but this is him just freeing up hand space. Pretty straightforward.
And these Mega Assembly mechs are actually a pretty big deal because there's a big discrepancy between the good mechs and the not-so-good mechs, as we'll call them. The high-value mechs like the Beryllium Nullifier, like Mecha'thun. Omega Devastator is decent. The one thing that it does allow you to do is answer an opposing Beryllium Nullifier in a relatively easy way, or answer just a big minion in general that you can get from the magnetic effect on the other side. So.
Right.
Scrap Hound can be good in certain circumstances. If you get Galvanizer and Mecha'thun, you can hold on to a Shield Slam to go for the immediate activation on Mecha'thun in the ultimate late game.
Right. Yeah, I mean, heck, maybe you get lucky enough to get a Galvanizer. Use everything.
Yep.
Make it cheaper. These are all possibilities, of course. Fr0zen has the ability to drop Blastmaster Boom to try and get more board presence, but I think he wants to utilize some of the smaller minions to reduce the armor count. I mean, that helps. That's 1 bomb.
I'm trying to keep a bomb counter here. I think there's 2 bombs in Muzzy's deck and 1 bomb in Fr0zen's deck.
Yes, there are 3 bombs that were shuffled right because the Wrench Caliber and the Clockwork Goblin.
And he just drew 1, so that's 2. And then Muzzy did play the 1 Clockwork Goblin early on in the game.
So the Mega Assembly gets the Boom Reaver, another Clockwork Goblin, and an Eternium Rover.
This would be a good time for a master plan.
Boom Reaver is best. I don't know. That one's a tough one because he still has the Blastmaster Boom in his deck. He also still has an Acolyte of Pain, which both slight liabilities because of the value of Blastmaster Boom, and also because usually if you're playing a 10-mana card in a Warrior Mirror matchup, your hand's quite full. So Acolyte of Pain gives you a chance of overdrawing, also draws you closer to fatigue. So that's a card that's probably going to be saved for quite a while.
Yeah, I anticipate that being the same. Security Rover, something that can generate value, especially off of cards that Fr0zen have that inherently aren't very good in this matchup, like Whirlwind, for example. So he could use that now with the Eternium Rover, get some easy board control. Also has the option later on to hold on to it and squeeze out more value. And this is the matchup where you can go slow enough to be extra greedy with all your resources. And I think it might even come down to having that small little edge, you know? These kinds of control matchups, TJ, sometimes end up becoming just having one extra, like, 3/3 on the board. And, you know, so you stick it and put enough pressure to get over the hump. It's a 4th bomb shuffled into Muzzy's deck.
I think it's... Oh, yep, 4 bombs because he played the Clockwork Goblin as well. So that's the Is that the second one?
So he's had 3 Red Caliber swings, and he's had one Clockwork Goblin. Fr0zen has only 1 Clockwork Goblin in his deck list.
He did... Yeah. So 3 bombs left since Muzzy drew.
Right.
So still a fully loaded Blastmaster Boom here.
Weapons Project just to shut down the 2nd Red Caliber. And Security Rover is going to do pretty well on this board, I'd say.
This is a very difficult minion to remove efficiently.
Yeah, interesting to note is that without the 2nd swing of Wrench Caliber, that's the maximum amount of bombs that can be shuffled in from Fr0zen's end. So his timing on Blastmaster Boom, it doesn't really get any better than what it currently is. Speaking of doesn't get really much better, this is the best outcome for the Boom Reaver because it only pulls out a copy of Blastmaster. It's not actually the card itself. So Muzzy still has it in its deck. And this is an intimidating board that Fr0zen has to deal with.
At this point, very likely that he has a very good way to deal with it just because of how many resources he has in his hand. He has access to Zilliax with the mechanic to take out the Blastmaster Boom, has Omega Devastator to take out the Boom Reaver. A lot of ways to pick this apart. Also because Boom Reaver and the Security Rover are mechs, he could snipe the Blastmaster Boom with the Dinomatic, which is actually can sometimes be a tough card to use effectively in this matchup since you're both just playing mechs back and forth. So I'm a big fan of just taking advantage of being able to use Dinomatic whenever you can, and this seems like a prime opportunity. But actually is going to use these boom bots before the bombs are drawn to try and get value out of it.
Yep, this makes sense to me in the sense that Fr0zen doesn't have much opportunity to really capitalize on this. Boom bots having pretty decent outcomes. Okay. Debating if he should take down a little bit of the extra armor, but Muzzy should be able to deal with this fairly easily through Shield Slam and the extra microbots coming in.
This is going to get weird, Dan. Fr0zen 2 cards behind in the fatigue battle, but not the biggest deal yet because we've still only drawn through about half of each of these decks.
Yeah, we're just getting started. Hope you guys get comfy back at home, have a nice pillow.
Some snacks?
Some snacks. A beverage, perhaps. Main objectives here for Muzzy: clear the board, make sure Fr0zen can't snowball his victory. Fairly straightforward. The onus really isn't on either player to really set up pressure either because of the evenness of their fatigue count. Oh, Hecklebot is a nice pickup,
okay.
Though. If it pulls out Blastmaster Boom.
Nailed it. Oh. So that's a very big tool that Fr0zen was able to pull out, and also the added benefit of it being able to bring Muzzy closer to Fr0zen's card count in that fatigue battle. Just that 1 card away now, since Muzzy was on the play at the beginning of this game. Hecklebot's also just kind of a big minion that poses the threat of that magnetic. To be able to push a significant amount of damage. If Muzzy doesn't deal with this board and then he takes a Zilliax either 6 or 7 to the face, then there goes his armor total. And armor total is not guaranteed in this matchup because once you play Dr. Boom Mad Genius, there could be a chance that you never get Blast Shield for the rest of the game. It's a very small chance.
Well, we haven't even seen Blast Shield thus far.
I think we saw it once from Fr0zen's perspective.
Okay.
Oh, you're right.
Fr0zen got it once, but that's been it. In that case, Dr. Boom Mad Genius is a very massive, huge blessing,
Okay, then.
but also has a very
also-
small chance to be a curse.
Well, you know, the blessing here for Fr0zen was being able to get the Heckle bot into the Omega. Or sorry, the Omega Desert is going to come down and clear it, but into the Blast Master Boom.
Yes.
Now Muzzy is 2 cards behind the T. That 15 should be a 12 in terms of the effective draws based off the bombs that are in Muzzy's deck.
Fr0zen has 1 as well, so they're completely even.
Oh, okay, you're right.
Completely even.
Omega Subway could get some more problematic mechs for Muzzy to deal with. Fr0zen holding on to things like his Eternium Rover on the far left that he had as early as turn 1 because armor count still might be relevant, but seems like it's a good opportunity to utilize it. I think he wants to just make hand space because, again, Omega Assembly right now would put 3 cards in the hand and he's holding 9. Needs to get to 8. So we can turn him over first and then Omega. Maybe we get some magnetics.
Let's see. Unpowered Steambot, the
Sure.
Safeguard.
Unpowered Steambot is something. So is Safeguard. I mean, it's just
It's kind of annoying.
Stuff.
Yeah, Safeguard's actually incredibly annoying.
stuff to play.
Say the magic word.
Definitely one of my one of the cards that I've underestimated when I first saw Safeguard being played in some decks. Just like, I guess this is like a real card. Muzzy getting more Clockwork Goblin opportunities, so he can shuffle in even more bombs into Fr0zen's deck.
Don't know if it's super relevant at this point because he no longer has access to the Blastmaster Boom, which was pulled out from the Echolbot. Fr0zen
Okay.
has a big board lead, and Clockwork Goblin's not that efficient, but look at his other options. The Scrap Pound, while it can be okay, as I mentioned earlier, it's really only the nuts when you can use it to fuse with a magnetic minion to get those big bursts of armor and very difficult to remove minions.
Yep. I mean, he had Zilliax, but you know, the Scrap Hound plus Zilliax combos is for like the late stages of the game.
Yes.
Once the fatigue's starting to come down, once you're out of resources, he wouldn't even really gain much outside of just the armor. Muzzy going for a little bit more of an aggressive push here to try and utilize the Wrench Caliber now as opposed to the second weapon project. What do you think of that?
I honestly don't know. I think at this point, Muzzy realizes that he's behind on value. He's behind on bombs. He's even in fatigue. So he doesn't have the advantage in any of those categories. So I think at this point, he just thinks that he needs to maybe take a risk and try and be, you know, a little bit more straightforward or aggressive, I guess, with his resources. I don't know. That's a tough one to call. At this point in the game, it's so hard to find a win condition outside of, hey, maybe I get a crazy card off of Delivery Drone. Maybe my Omega Assemblies come through in the clutch. But when you're looking at this game state from Muzzy's perspective, you're like, well, I don't have board. I don't have the fatigue race.
Yeah,
I
doesn't
don't have good resources.
This would be a
Does-
good
I don't have a
time
life
for
advantage.
master plan.
in life as
Yeah,
well.
it's like, what do you do to try and win the game? And shuffle more bombs into your opponent's deck faster? Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you could look at it 2 ways. One, like Fr0zen getting the Hecklebot was really important, but Muzzy also got Boom Reaver, which also drained like more
This would
resources,
be a
right?
good
Yeah,
time
yeah.
for a
Summon like
master
big stuff and
plan.
stats. So I guess in that case, Muzzy is still, you know, he's behind, but he still has a decent amount of resources that he still can get through if he can get nice delivery drone.
Yeah, but that's pretty much all we can rely on is Delivery Drone. If you look at the way his deck is constructed, his only large threat, which was Blastmaster Boom, is gone. He used an Omega Devastator as well. I can't remember if that was an Omega Assembly one, but still a resource nonetheless. And there's his second Militia Command. So his ability to fight back on the board.
Oh my gosh! That is some brilliant play here from Fr0zen to keep his hand full, and the bomb being burned. 5 less damage. Another slight advantage to Fr0zen.
Yeah.
Light the fuses!
I mean, at this point, I think regardless of slight advantage, even if you're taking that 5 bomb damage, he still would have had a significant life total lead. And yeah, not going to put 10 cards in hand this turn to try and negate that 5 damage again, because at this point there's only, I believe, 1 more bomb left in. Fr0zen's just going to keep the status quo and say, hey, this one's on you to try and make the move. I'm happy with just chipping away a couple life points each turn and not doing anything. The onus here is on Muzzy to try and be the one to find a way to win, and without delivery drone, getting something big, Muzzy is going to die. It's going to take a while for that to happen, but he's going to die.
I think so. Muzzy is slowly losing every edge here that he can possibly get in this matchup, and I think Fr0zen's just like slight pressure here is annoying enough that Muzzy has to waste resources. And when I say waste, it feels like it wastes when you have to swing Wrench Caliber into a Eternium Rover, and that way you can't utilize, because otherwise you'd be giving your opponent too much armor to the warpath, right? And this feels very wasteful, but at the same time, it's not like you get much value off of warpath, and so it's like it's the small edges like that help give Fr0zen a bigger and bigger advantage.
Muzzy is able to stick the micro squad, micro bots.
Micro bots assemble. Huh. Wow, Whirlwind lines up really nicely. Is it something that he wants to play? You have to think about like ways you can get value off of cards that you traditionally don't use. And Fr0zen, I think, he might be still in that same plan of I just might be willing to burn an extra card, because you were on to something. It's like the biggest set's already been used, and he's not going to want to necessarily draw any other card that he doesn't already have. Right? He already has like his Shield Slam. He already has like Omega Assembly.
Yeah.
Maybe he just holds on to 10 cards and just doesn't let Muzzy get any damage whatsoever through the bombs.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the cards left in his deck, he'd rather have a card in his hand. He's got an Acolyte, he's got Brawls left in his deck, he's got Harrison Jones. Yep. So all those cards, he's like, I don't really care about drawing those things. Maybe Harrison, just because it's a 5/4 body.
Right.
But everything else, he's saying, why would I want to draw a card? I have the bonus of being able to negate 5 damage from the bomb, and I'd rather have these cards in my hand than the cards in my deck. So let's just not do anything.
Yeah, very smart. Now Muzzy, I'm trying to think if there's any way for him to climb back into this. Right now,
Omega
maybe not
Assembly into
necessarily looking that
Mechathun.
good.
Still a possibility, Dan.
Very astutely observing that he has no more rush minions to draw anyways. Picks up the Mechanical Whelp, which has some game plan against Fr0zen. Spring Rocket, 3 mana, 2/1, deal 2 damage, Battle Cry, and a Dynamatic, which we know is not very good in this matchup. Muzzy's going to do the same thing as Fr0zen. Keep 10 cards in the hand. The Warrior matchup in a nutshell.
Oh, jeez.
Fr0zen going for the Delivery Drone. He also gets Rush on this upgradable frame bot.
Yeah. And this is the one time where you would play a card because you want to be able to replace it with the mech. And Rusty Recycler is just a way for Fr0zen to combat fatigue once he gets to that stage, and also gets to fill up his hand once again. So now we're at that awkward point where, I don't know, there's been so many, this is almost becoming a cliche for casters, but if both players are doing the same thing, one of them is wrong.
Well, one of them will be wrong. I think it could be the correct way to play.
Well, one of them is wrong now. We just don't know who it is yet.
Well, the Wrench Caliber being burned feels like a painful loss, but if Fr0zen's keeping his hand count at 10, it's not like those bombs will do anything. Or not, they won't do much except be a looming threat.
Yeah.
There's only one damage on the board. It's an upgradable frame bot with the glove of Thanos.
There's no,
He has
there's
the
no
white.
gems in it, though.
He has 2 of the white Infinity Stones. Oh, wow. Second bomb being wasted here.
It is only
Muzzy
one
just
left.
shaking his head. Just, Fr0zen making sure that he doesn't get any of that damage, keeping his hand full at all times. Very good play from him so far. It's kind of reminding everybody, even though, yes, he's taken a little bit of hiatus, like when he gets back into form, Fr0zen's top player. And he's also asserted himself at a lot of other things. I mean, Fr0zen used to be like a very good poker player from what I heard.
Yeah. Single-handedly got Admirable back into poker, which is actually not that tough to do, so I don't know. Yeah,
Usually the conversation like, hey, you want to play some cards, Admirable's like, sure.
Yeah, he's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure, I definitely do. But Fr0zen also has always struck me as one of the more creative players when it comes to not only gameplay, but deck building. So not being able to show that creativity here in week 1 of Grandmasters, maybe with his secondary deck with the Mechathud Undertaker additions as his 5 cards, that package. But definitely with his gameplay can find creative solutions to the most mundane of Hearthstone problems.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Muzzy feels the need to play a card here as well. This seems to be, on paper, right? It might be like, okay, just a warpath, clear the board. But it's the same thing. He's losing the edges that Fr0zen has bomb shuffled in Muzzy's deck, and Muzzy is not even getting the activations on Fr0zen, and Muzzy is going to be behind. And he might need his warpath because he still hasn't seen a couple of the cards from the Omega Assembly that Fr0zen has. Pass.
Yikes.
Fr0zen doesn't need that warpath. Can play his mech, then delivery drone, keep his hand full.
I'm curious if he wants to shield slam over Rusty Recycler here. I don't know.
You could be right. This is one of the biggest targets that Muzzy will have, and if he has the Beryllium Nullifier, that would be a very problematic card to deal. Mega Devastator.
Well, I was thinking like, well, he doesn't have a great way to deal with a big minion should Muzzy get one from Delivery Drone, but then, hey, uses the Shield Slam, picks up Omega Devastator, which, oftentimes is better than Shield Slam. Has a lower maximum damage potential, but leaves a 4-5 body behind. And 10 damage usually enough to kill most things. 14 if you consider the rush aspect being available.
Boom Reaver, big 7/9 minion. Like you said, though, could end up pulling a minion that Muzzy doesn't want. Fr0zen.
Well, I think there's not really any that are left that he could pull that are bad.
Okay.
I honestly think
just plays as a 7/9.
he has Harrison Jones as the only minion left.
Nice. Muzzy able to return the favor. So this is Bomb Warrior without the bombs actually exploding.
I was promised explosiveness, Dan. This is not it.
Nope.
Muzzy and Fr0zen are denying me of pleasure.
They spent the extra cash.
And I am pissed.
They spent the extra cash with the fuse kit, TJ. CT side wins yet again. Pass. Bomb. Diffused. Counter-terrorists win. Town Crier.
Town Crier was
The other minion.
yeah, Muzzy has 2 copies of Town Crier.
Yep. Delivery drone. Muzzy can pick up Mechathune still as well.
You could pick up Megathune, and also at this point it depends on like what hero powers they get. Because if one player keeps getting Blast Shield and the other doesn't, and they're even on fatigue, then what?
Oh, Muzzy keeps getting delivery drone. Wow! That's the last bomb.
I believe it is.
Just need that brawl.
Yep, already has one in hand, and it's a very tough card to use in this matchup, so...
Well, Muzzy's ahead on the board very slightly.
Oh yeah, that 2-1.
But there's still a bomb in his deck that I think he doesn't want to take the damage of, but he could still develop into the board and try to pressure the life total, which does matter. So perhaps in his mind, Boom Reaver is probably something to consider at this moment because he won't have a chance to summon another minion that's big to fight.
Yeah, I think now the only minion left is Harrison Jones, but he may have even played that, so I don't even know what's left.
I don't believe he did, but it could be mistaken.
There it is.
Shield Slam gone. That's a useful tool for Fr0zen. I mean, he doesn't even have Brawl, but he does have Omega Devastator, and he does have the Zap hero power, so he should be able to go for a board clear in some capacity this turn. He is going to be on the less than 10 cards, but I think all of the bombs have been burned. There might be one left.
I honestly don't think that there is, but there was that wrench caliber that Muzzy was able to swing with twice. And I think he also picked up an extra clockwork gnome from a delivery drone.
Oh, that last bomb. There were only 5 cards, so
Yeah.
there's a reasonable chance it would have happened, but Muzzy not happy to see that.
Yeah, Muzzy's kind of laughing. He's like, well, pretty much everything else went wrong this game. He heckle-botted my Blastmaster boom, and now with 1 bomb left in the deck, I played so long around those bombs by keeping my hand at 10. And the one time I let it slip by trying to go for a proactive play, punished by the bomb.
Okay, then.
And just judging by the fatigue count, I honestly think that Fr0zen may have a bomb left.
Yes, it looks like I think Fr0zen has 1 more bomb, but he's been avoiding every bomb explosion so far, and I think 4 have been burned. That should be 20. It should be an even life count right now. It goes to show you the diligence of Fr0zen's play has led to a significant edge in the armor count. Beryllium Nullifier comes in the hand, though. That's a big pickup for Muzzy. 2 Shield Slams gone already. Makes it much more difficult to remove that 7/7 efficiently. And the Omega Devastator from the Omega Assembly and Delivery Drones have been used.
And both Shield Slams have been expended. 1 on a minion and 1 was burned with Fr0zen going for that plan.
Right.
So let's say Muzzy sticks a Mechanical Whelp next turn. Whether the Mechanical Whelp goes on to whether the Beryllium Nullifier goes onto the Whelp or the Dragon that spawns, both are good. Because if it goes on the Mechanical Whelp, a 50-50 Brawl to try and clear that minion away is not even going to do much because it'll still leave the 7/7 behind. And the other way around is just this giant minion that's clocking you for 10 that you can't remove with your normal ways of removal. It's even outside of the range of an Omega Devastator plus the Omega Devastator Rush because it'd be at 15 health. Very could be a big deal, but Fr0zen, like we said, still has the lead, has health lead, has the lead in fatigue, if you look at it that way.
Yeah, and what becomes scary, too, for both these players is as they cross the finish line for their normal draws, any bomb discovered is pretty big for damage, which is why some players end up saving their bomb shuffles for later in the game. But I don't think there's any normal shuffles left. Fr0zen would use both his Wrench Calibers, one which got removed from Weapons Project, and he uses 1 copy of Clockwork Gnome. And then for Muzzy, he's burned his 2nd copy of Wrench Caliber, and he played both his Clockwork Gnomes. He did discover 1 as well.
Yeah. But
which explains that extra bomb.
You know, there's arguments for the strategy of just holding on to everything until the end of the game, but oftentimes that means you just have even more full of a hand. Ooh, this is actually honestly Omega Devastator seems like the best option because Fr0zen's game plan right now is not to try and win proactively because if he keeps the status quo, he wins.
Oof.
Oof.
The 2nd copy of Clockwork Gnome. But I mean, Muzzy's keeping, like, there's only 2 cards left in his deck.
I don't even know what the last one is.
I gotta admit, it's been a little bit difficult deck tracking this. I somewhat gave up halfway through. Brawl.
Shield Slam?
Nope, he burned a Shield Slam himself.
That's it. I'm out of
Oh, the
It's the
bomb.
bomb. It's the last bomb from Fr0zen.
Magic.
And he was really holding on to the fact that he could get that Clockwork Gnome, but now he's kept the 10 cards. Going back up. It's another Boom Reaver, but it's just a 10 mana 7/9. And Fr0zen has removal for everything. Then that'll be the game. That health advantage. He's able to even just take the damage.
Yeah, just be greedy with this Omega Devastator. Say, you're out of resources, and you're holding on to 2 mechs that I know you've discovered. This Beryllium Nullifier, 4 damage. He's perfectly fine taking that to try and bait out the tools. And now Muzzy is on. It's a decent size clock, but still a clock nonetheless.
Yeah, 9 power is pretty reasonable. 2 brawls have been burned from Fr0zen.
I'm almost out
More
of
paths gone too. That's really nice. Fr0zen just gonna really take this deep into the fatigue game.
Yeah, he must be. He must know that last card is a bomb. That's why I think he's.
Are you kidding
holding
me?
on to it one more time?
Okay, Muzzy keeps discovering Boom Reavers.
Okay, well.
And that's just like big threats. And I think Muzzy's even debating if he wants to start capitalizing on, say, even having lifesteal with Ziliax on this 4-7. That's hard to deal with the Divine Shield. I mean, Omega Devastator doesn't kill that by itself. Fr0zen just needs to add some extra change, and I think that's where the Whirlwind comes into play here. But he doesn't. Can he deal with everything?
I'm out of cards.
Whirlwind, Zap, plus the Omega Devastator. No, it doesn't clear everything.
Not quite. Muzzy deeper in fatigue, but Fr0zen's honestly out of stuff. Now, he still has a Omega Assembly, which, of course, Omega Devastator is a warrior card. And since Omega Assembly, even though you're getting all 3 options, is still a Discover, so it's more weighted towards class cards. So he has another chance to get that, or just have mechs to fight, right? If they have Rush, he can fight on board. But still, if Muzzy is able to stick a Boom Reaver and attack with it for a few turns, he could equalize the life total. And Delivery Drone, okay.
Delivery Drone here, very big for Fr0zen. Muzzy having the Blast Shield. I think he's evaluating if he wants to get that extra life, which is pretty valuable in this stage of fatigue. But if he does that, he doesn't have much good stuff to follow up that Blast Shield. The Boom Reaver is also a little bit hard to utilize when you need things like your Delivery Drone and your Blast Shield. Okay, that's, I think, the ideal scenario here for Muzz.
Yeah.
Gets that 7 armor. Fr0zen with its Delivery Drone, looking for another Omega Devastator, perhaps? Are you serious? Wow.
Now, granted, it is a warrior card. Let's see if he can get another one.
Oh, wow.
Didn't get another one, but got some big mechs himself.
I think that's like his 4th Omega Devastator, despite the fact that Fr0zen only has 1 in his deck list.
Yeah, at this point, it may even be 5.
It could be.
He's been getting Delivery Drones non-stop.
And he's also done a good job keeping his Omega Assembly count like pretty high as well, because he played it so late into this game.
Yeah. And Fr0zen's still holding on to Ziliax because he wants it for potentially that little burst of life. So he's thinking about it.
Yeah, Ziliax plus Beryllium Nullifier, I think, is the end game goal here for Fr0zen.
Yeah.
And now that Brawl has been used, and Fr0zen should know that Muzzy has no
removal.
copy. Yeah.
No removal whatsoever. I mean, his removal is the Boom Reaver that's in his hand, and Muzzy really doesn't have an option but to play it here to try and hopefully stick the last threat.
Right. He's hoping that Fr0zen has nothing but air, but Fr0zen just is going even with resources, and that is going to be the game unless Muzzy can discover a Mecha'thun right here, right now, but he still might die.
I think he's dead because he has to shield block twice and play 2 Acolytes of Pain.
And they both die.
And he would be able to damage those. Let's say he gets Microbots, that's 3 extra cards. He would die just from playing those cards alone. So, not an option. Even Mecha'thun here, it's not enough time for Muzzy to win the game.
Yep, Fr0zen seeing the lines here, knows 2 Acolytes, 2 shield blocks are in the hand, should know Weapons Project and Warpath if he's doing a diligent job deck tracking. Muzzy is praying for a Hail Mary attempt here. Pinata?
Oh, Elysiana?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, geez.
Oh my.
Because I said Mecha'thun at this point is not enough. Mecha'thun's not enough, but Elysiana could be enough.
Elysiana might be too much tempo loss. if Fr0zen's able to capitalize, because this Beryllium Nullifier is very scary.
All right, moment of truth.
Once he attaches Ziliax to this bad boy. Oh, that's funny.
That is, Why would Muzzy wait so long to play his Blastmaster Boom?
Wow. All right, game 1 has officially been logged as we have Fr0zen, Team Liquid take the first game of this series.
Yeah, and honestly, just incredibly well played. Now, there was a couple things that had to go his way. You know, Hecklebot on the Blastmaster Boom, being able to discover a lot of Omega Devastators. So that's kind of how Warrior Mirrors end up panning out. But we even talked about it. He overdrew 5 bombs by keeping his hand at 10, and just by not being super greedy with his hand size and not overextending onto the board, which meant that he equalized the life total. That was 25 life that he negated.
Right.
Which could have made things different towards the end of the game, could have changed Muzzy's game plan, maybe allowed him to be a bit more aggressive, not try and rely on discovers to win the game. So definitely gained a couple percentage points because of good play.
Yep, expertly done by Fr0zen, and Muzzy's gonna have to bounce back. So we're gonna take a few minutes, and when we come back, we'll find out who is playing what deck in our first kickoff match here for the America's Hearthstone Grandmasters.
One night, I was called on to scry. But what is this symbol I spy? It's my own crystal ball. Yes, I'll answer the call. And the others will come by and by. That's right. We be calling a team in. The Masters of Platin and Scheming. By this candle a-glowing, I surely be knowing whose gold will be once more a-gleaming.
Well met, friend. Ooh.
Let's get this over with.
I win!
Oh, what an amazing game! Oh, well played!
Here's to the winner.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Hearthstone Grandmasters for America's kickoff day. Hope you guys are locked and ready to go, because we're just getting started with this bad boy. 1 Warrior versus Warrior Mirror down, and potentially up to 11 more We'll see what ends up happening.
Thanks,
Muzzy
Dan.
and Fr0zen. I heard it was like 50 minutes long.
It was roughly a little bit less.
Well, we wanted 24/7 coverage of Hearthstone Esports. We're gonna relay it right back to Asia Pacific.
We have
by the time we're done with this broadcast.
we have 12 hours to go.
All
If
right.
we can go for 12 hours, we've successfully completed not only 24 hours, but then Asia Pacific Saturday broadcast will
Right.
start again.
Yeah.
And we can just keep rolling.
Yes.
72 hours of straight Hearthstone coverage.
That's right. It's what they wanted. We give the people exactly what they asked.
Who asked for this, Dan? Who?
No one.
Show me
Poland.
them.
Hearthstone Grandmasters, Warrior Mirrors every single day for the rest of history. But we're just getting started. And of course, Muzzy versus Fr0zen is currently in the series. You guys are just tuning in. Fr0zen's up 1-0. We're going to go to the secondary decks for game number 2. Secondary deck for Fr0zen. We removed one Omega Assembly, removed the bomb package. And instead, we added Inner Rage, Devastate, The Undertaker, Geppetto Joypuz, and Mechathune. That's right. Fr0zen actually has a win condition proper. Muzzy's win condition, well, you see 2 of them in his opening hand. You have Archivist, Elysiana, and Hecklebot, as well as 2 Baleful Bankers. So not only can he Hecklebot twice, he can shuffle in Hecklebots with Baleful Bankers, and even have an opportunity to discover more Hecklebots in the future with his normal stuff.
Yeah.
So that is Muzzy's game plan. Disruption, and Fr0zen, of course, is Eruption.
This matchup basically comes down to, can Muzzy Hecklebot the Mechathune? If not,
yeah.
he loses.
Well, maybe he wants to Hecklebot the Undertaker.
Yes, but even if he doesn't Hecklebot, if he Hecklebots the Undertaker, there's still ways for the combo to be activated. The biggest one is just Geppetto Joypuz. So if he Hecklebots both Undertaker and Geppetto Joypuz, then it becomes very difficult for Fr0zen to be able to get the combo off. He has to stick Mechathune, and if he, let's say he plays Mechathune early on in the game, and then Undertaker gets Hecklebotted, then there's no way for him to do it. Then he loses.
Right.
But he has Undertaker now, so if he draws Mechathune at all, he's probably just gonna play it. I don't know. It's a weird combo, but basically it comes down to you play Mechathune on 10, it dies. When you have no cards left, you play Undertaker, you Inner Rage it, you Devastate it, you win the game.
What I do appreciate about this dynamic, though, is that both players are unafraid to draw.
Whew. All right. Well, he has Mechathune and the Undertaker.
Now he needs Inner Rage, and he has a Devastate, and the package is there because the Undertaker is an 8/5 minion. So you Inner Rage it, then Devastate it for 4 damage, and that'll kill the Undertaker, which triggers the Mechathune Death Rattle. Mechathune states, for anybody who doesn't know, is if your board is clear and you're holding no cards and you have 0 cards in your deck, you win the game when Mechathune dies.
Yes.
So Fr0zen's next objective is to draw 21 cards by 9 mana, which probably is not going to happen, but the longer this game goes, the more Fr0zen's in the advantage. Because now there's no way for Muzzy to really disrupt the hand unless he's able to do something else that I'm not thinking of.
Yeah, well, Muzzy, no, he doesn't have Unseen Saboteur, so he,
Right.
there's no way for him to interact with the combo. Basically, if he plays second Hecklebot and both of his Hecklebots die, his only win condition is to kill Fr0zen, effectively. And
Right.
that's a little bit easier because Fr0zen is running basically 5 dead cards. He's running 5 cards that just don't do anything that you need to hold on to at every point in the game. And maybe you can find a spot where you can get some aggression going. He's got Dr. Boom Mad Genius right on 7 or on 6.
Oh my gosh.
2 games in a row, both players. Coin Dr. Boom Mad Genius into Dr. Boom Mad Genius.
Yeah, this hurts especially for Muzzy because now Fr0zen has the rushed minions to attack Muzzy's minions right back. That being said, Muzzy's still firmly ahead on tempo, and there's no brawl in Fr0zen's side.
Yeah. So Muzzy still has a chance. You know, if he manages to keep piling on aggression, and Fr0zen's not drawing into his removal, and his hand is clogged up with all these combo activations, then those bombs, because Fr0zen's also...
Oh my gosh! Fr0zen's just playing with the top card in his deck without even looking at it.
And
it doesn't matter if you have the Millennium Eye, you just have to play from the top of the deck.
But is that a mistake? Because he could have played the microbots before he brawled and have a chance to win.
That's fair.
So he did play very quickly off the top of his deck, but this was either a chance to have a 1-1 live and no Hecklebot on the other side. And this also, I think, is a mistake because what if Muzzy were to draw a Baleful Banker? Now, we know that Fr0zen has both of his big Hecklebot minions in hand with Mecha'thun and Undertaker, but, you know, just something to think about.
Yeah.
Now he's getting punished because he's taking more damage.
Yeah, all right, that's fair, TJ. I was just kind of evaluating that Fr0zen needed a way to deal with the wide board without Brawl, and then he drew it. But there were better ways for Fr0zen to deal with this, because if he did deal with the Hecklebot, like you said, the Zilliax would be anywhere near as strong.
Yeah, you got to check every box, Dan.
Yeah. That said, Fr0zen's still in a position where he's okay, because as long as his life total is above 0, he will be able to pull up this combo when he gets closer to the deck, the bottom of the deck. And that's what's really scary for Muzzy. Can cycle for extra cards. Doesn't want to use his Inner Rage, though, unnecessarily, because it is his activated for the Undertaker.
Also his Devastate.
Also his Devastate. So, yes, he could remove that Hecklebot.
But he will not.
Yeah, he has a Militia Commander for next turn. I think what he's really afraid of is if Muzzy has some way to magnetize this further, which he does not. But if there was a magnetic minion of some kind to increase the health of this Hecklebot, it becomes nigh unkillable for Fr0zen until he picks up his Omega Devastator.
Yeah. Now, this overdraw for Fr0zen really doesn't matter too much.
It might matter for the bomb. Shield Slam. Oh, well, that's inconvenient to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, that matters, but...
Yeah, now Mecha'thun can just be straight up removal.
Yep.
That's something I actually forgot about. Mecha'thun just has a 10 rusher.
And I think that's the benefit of playing this package over, say, the Boom Ship, because it's pretty much the same amount of combo, amount of cards, but it allows you to, one, have multiple ways to trigger the Mecha'thun combo, either by drawing Mecha'thun with Geppetto Joy Buzz and then just having like Whirlwind or Enrage as your last card.
Right.
Or if Geppetto Joy Buzz is later than Mecha'thun into Undertaker, you can just play Mecha'thun early on as a tempo tool that you can rush into a big minion as removal, and then still have the Undertaker later on to activate with Enrage and Devastate. So. Very cool combo. We've seen so many iterations of Mecha'thun in Warrior. The very first ones were like Galvanizer, and then you Shield Slam your own Mecha'thun. But those ones are very unreliable because you're not guaranteed to have armor at the end of the game.
Right.
And then we saw Boom Ship becoming more and more popular. And now this is like the Undertaker one is the only one I've seen in the past, 3 days. So.
I like this play a lot from Muzzy. When your opponent wants to get to the Mecha'thun stage, Fr0zen has to play his entire hand. During that opportunity, Muzzy can shuffle in a bunch of bombs. This Baleful Banker on this Clockwork Goblin might be a big difference maker. We'll find out as the game continues to transpire, but that's why I like this matchup a lot more than the one that we saw just in game number 1.
It's actually explosive.
There's actually things happening instead of inaction.
Yeah, both players are going towards different win conditions instead of both players going for the same win condition where one player ekes it out at the end. Wow. Fr0zen's trying to draw through his deck to activate his Mecha'thun combo, and Muzzy's trying to kill Fr0zen. It's like an actual game of Hearthstone, Dan.
Yeah, of course, we say that facetiously because we will see more of that. Most likely, every game 1 of the Warrior Mirrors today will end up being pretty slow into a faster game.
There are a few, I think, that have a Lysiana main deck. And that's where it gets, more interesting in fatigue scenarios, but also longer, potentially.
Ouch. Fr0zen getting the other side of the spectrum. Last game, he couldn't stop getting Omega Devastators. This game is Omega Assembly for only 2 picked up the 2 1-mana mechs. Muzzy with the Omega Assembly and a Delivery Drone. He's going to be able to pick up some powerful stuff this game. Hecklebot.
But at the same time, Hecklebot, while it's the biggest mech in that pool, he should also know that Fr0zen by, 1, playing Mecha'thun early, and 2, keeping his hand size at 10, most likely has every piece of the combo, or else he wouldn't risk this.
Right.
So Hecklebot just kind of accelerates Fr0zen's game plan. It helps him out by drawing him more through his deck.
You're right.
So
You're right.
I don't know if Hecklebot's the right choice. It was, I believe, the biggest minions out of the ones that he could have picked. So if his plan is just aggression, sure. But by drawing an extra card for Fr0zen, without him having to do anything, without him having to expend a resource or empty his hand a little bit more, that's kind of where my question is.
That's fair. Oh, that's a very nice bomb damage land for Muzzy, because then Fr0zen lost some of his armor. Can't shield slam conveniently. Has to finagle his way through a little bit more.
Well, it does have a way to pick this apart pretty nicely, actually. Delivery drone to back it up.
Yep, that's right.
So not as big of a turn as Muzzy was probably hoping it would be.
Yep, second dynamic, forgot about that card, was kind of focused on the shield slam. And Fr0zen trying to spread out the minions on the board so that way the Boombot can splash any of those minions instead of his life total. In the ideal scenario, the Boombot lands on the Eternian Rover for 1 damage.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure you go for a delivery drone first. I honestly would have liked to see just Eternian Rover first and then delivery drone to see if that changes your game plan.
Oh, I love that view.
Sure. Because if he had realized that he got missile launcher, maybe there's a weird way that he can clear without it. Right. It wouldn't hit the Blastmaster boom because it'd be 5+1, but just maybe some minor sequencing differences in that turn. But still works out quite well for him.
Wrench, Caliber, and now with a couple cards being played, Muzzy can continue to open up the bomb opportunities with Omega Assembly now gone. And Fr0zen only has 1 Omega Assembly in his deck now because he removed one of it for his second game.
I think he already played it. Yeah, he did already play it.
Right, so it's going to be difficult for Fr0zen to keep a full hand, which means that Muzzy can maybe start resuming the bomb plan.
Yeah. Also, I believe he's played both Dynamatics, and one of the combos to quickly draw through your deck is Acolyte of Pain plus Dynamatic.
It's a nice pickup here from Muzzy to stop the Omega Devastator.
Okay.
Fr0zen looking a little more uncomfortable. It's scary because, yes, Fr0zen has some of the best tools at his disposal to survive. But at the same time, Muzzy's mounting quite the board to face off against.
This would be a good time. Oh, I love that view.
For a second there, he mounts over Archivist Elysiana, and I was mildly confused.
This is a nice push from Muzzy, recognizing that Fr0zen burned his Warpath as well, so it's definitely like one of those responses based off the information that was given to you. So he saw a Brawl, he saw a Warpath. Fr0zen doesn't have a convenient way to deal with all of this board.
So
that Whirlwind, though.
Another thing that I had a slight problem with that turn, maybe not, and maybe it was an active choice from Muzzy, but Muzzy had an opportunity to trade over the Hecklebot with Rush in order to deal the extra 3 damage on the Dynamatic, but instead decided to use the Zap Hero Power. He could have pushed 3 extra damage to face, but I understand the reason why he did it was because Militia Commander would have been able to value trade over the Hecklebot at that point. But is 3 extra damage relevant? That's the question. I think it might be.
Let the pain speak to me.
It is a fair thing to discuss.
At this point, I'm looking for things to discuss, Dan.
Well, I think that it does actually matter, because if he's going to go for a bomb win condition, he's going to need to deal as much damage as possible.
Yeah, every little bit counts, I feel. And even if his Hecklebot had the potential to be removed by a Militia Commander, 4 mana on a Militia Commander means that he has less mana to expend on clearing the rest of his board.
5 damage. So Shield Slam is the blast shield here. Geppetto Joy Buzz. You might be thinking, why does he have so many cheap minions if he has Geppetto Joy Buzz? He's just trying to draw cards, and he has a chance of landing on the Unteka and Mechathune.
Yes, which makes the combo easier and also gives it a slight amount of redundancy. It kind of has plays around Hecklebot and Unseen Saboteur in a way, because if Unseen Saboteur comes out and plays your Devastate, for instance. You can still Geppetto Joy Buzz into Undertaker to make it you be able to kill it with just Whirlwind or just Inner Rage. And on the other side, Geppetto Joy Buzz allowing you to rapid fire minions early on, and Mechathune being pulled out means that you still have a chance for Undertaker to be able to win. So that's why I like it. With 5 cards only to be able to change in Specialist, I feel like these 5 are the ones that give you the best chance to win against a variety of tech cards.
Fr0zen holding on to those weapons projects for so long because he needed to shut down the Wrench Caliber. Nice restraint there.
And Scrap Hound plus Ziliax lined up for Fr0zen, so that's a big health swing. You get the 5 armor plus the 3 additional health, so it's 8 health immediately, plus your opponent has to find a way to remove it. A Mega Devastator is that way.
A Mega Devastator, not the most amount of pressure though here. Adding in a Spark for good measure. I mean, Muzzy might want to tempo the Elysiana if he's not going to be able to do anything in the next couple turns.
Yeah.
Because you don't know if you're going to get that second copy of Wrench Caliber, all these other bombs that you want to be able to activate. Vicious Scrap Hound and Ziliax. That is such a disgusting
Plus
combo.
Blast Shield. So he's going to gain the
17
8
life.
plus... is it 15?
Well, it's like double dip. So the armor, the damage you deal
So
is
he gains,
life,
he
is
gains
life
5.
and armor.
He gains 5 armor plus 3 health, and then 7 health from the Blast Shield. Right, 5 damage deals for the Vicious Scrap Hound plus. Oh yeah, no, you're right. It is 17. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the Ziliax would have 5. Yeah, you're right.
Now this might look really confusing. Why are we brawling this? Well, Fr0zen needs to find ways to ditch cards out of his hand. And also, he can stand to take a little bit extra more damage, you know? He's already recognizing that he needs to spend his cards in order to get the Mechathune combo off. This is very nice line here from Fr0zen, I think, because he recognizes Muzzy's a little bit desperate.
Yeah.
Because he's been playing a Mega Devastator for tempo.
Brawl is pretty much the hardest card to use out of his cards remaining.
Right. I mean, Muzzy has a way to actually play around it by never really playing or never playing a minion. And then if Fr0zen's stuck in a situation where he only has Undertaker and nothing else and a Brawl that's unplayable, he can never win the game.
Yep.
So this is a good use of the Brawl, I think, from Fr0zen's end, unless Muzzy able to assemble a huge board. And I mean, he's got some stuff. A Witch's Cauldron? Oh, no, it can't. It can't, because Undertaker's going to die that turn. I was thinking about Hex and how it can affect it, or Silence, because there's Shaman spells that can manipulate that. But I don't think there's any disruption there. Bomb. A few more coming down. We're trying to hover the Observer to show you, but I think...
there had to be something from Witch's Cauldron that can affect it.
Yes.
There had to be.
Yes. So what you can do is play Stormbringer, get Swamp King Dread. No, because then they just play the Inner Rage and Devastate ahead of time and then play Mechathune.
And then play Mechathune.
Sorry,
Undertaker.
You can play. You can transmute and evolve something into Mana Wraith, which makes makes Undertaker to 9, but you can still Inner Rage Devastate. Wow, what is going on?
It's hard.
Ruby Unravelers rotate out, so his spell disruption is a little bit more difficult to achieve.
This would be a good time.
Is there any way you can? Oh man,
I'm thinking about the 0.01% out.
I don't even know if there's any. That's the thing.
He's looking for it. But he's like, is there anything I can do to potentially pick up one Shaman card to disrupt it? Big Bad Voodoo. I mean, that is a card that can evolve something and potentially...
Does he have a... Does he have a Baleful Banker?
No, there is one. There's one opportunity. A Serenite Taskmaster, when a Death Rattle dies, summons a minion for your opponent. Oh no, that only works against Mechathon Warlock because they use.
Wasn't that also in Wrath Village? The
Taskmaster? No, still here.
Okay.
The one that's a 1-mana 2/3 that summons 0/3 taunt from the other side.
Oh yeah. I thought you were talking about the Rattling Rascal.
Oh yeah.
The Death Rattle summons a 5/5 on your opponent's side.
We need like a Weasel Tunneler right now. That's
Weasel Tunneler. So if he has a Baleful Banker left, he can Big Bad Voodoo onto a 4-mana minion. It evolves into It evolves into Unseen Saboteur, and then he Baleful Bankers it as his last card, and then can pull it out.
Does Big Bad Voodoo only work on friendly minions? I gotta admit, I haven't played as much Big Shine as I'd like.
Oh, I don't know.
Because you can put. What if you put Ancestral Healing?
Ancestral Spirit can be used.
Or Ancestral Spirit, yeah, right.
Can be used on opposing minions.
Right.
I know that. A Big Bad Voodoo, I would assume, works the same way.
I think it's friendly minions only. Otherwise, I think Muzzy would.
But what would you get?
Around. Well, the idea is that Big Bad Voodoo doesn't allow every minion to die on the board.
Oh yeah, that's true. But if his minion,
I gotta admit, I haven't encountered many of these scenarios. But as far as I know, I thought like if you attach a resummon, doesn't it not trigger?
What about Lucent Bark? Does a dormant minion on board affect?
I don't know, dude. I haven't ran into any. I played a lot of Lucent Bark Druid. I'm actually at rank 1 4 stars right now.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, it doesn't matter how much you play of it, because giving your opponent the Lucent Bark is the relevant thing, right?
Yes. And Muzzy's almost out of time. He's like thinking about all these possible permutations, but the truth is, he needs these minions to survive, so he doesn't want Geppetto Joybud to actually die. Lava Burst. Okay. So, Fr0zen needs these minions to die, but the Geppetto Joybuzz can't die. He's crushing the life total instead. Pass. Soul Thraze. Okay, now Muzzy has more time to think. He has all the time in the world. He's not taking fatigue damage. He was at 60 life.
He's got plenty of cards left.
Ooh, giving more ways for Geppetto Joybuzz to die.
Wait, what?
Well, the Town Crier can't die.
Okay. So he has to find a way for Town Crier not to die.
Right. So I think his plan is to maybe not play a minion and wait for Fr0zen to get the zap, and hope that Fr0zen doesn't get the zap hero power.
But leaving Geppetto Joybuzz up, I think he's still ahead on the clock.
Maybe.
He doesn't need to kill it yet, and now.
Oh, wait. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Because once Muzzy sees that Fr0zen gets the zap, he can. Well, if Big Bad Voodoo works the way it does, I feel like I should look this up real quick, actually.
And then he.
Hold this thought.
No, it is just a minion. It is a minion. It doesn't say friendly minion.
Big Bad Voodoo.
Yeah, it's just a minion. Look.
Oh wow! So he does that, and Fr0zen.
He's smiling. He's smirking.
When he gets the zap, he spends his turn zapping. He can't Undertaker and Devastate an Inner Rage. So then Fr0zen has to wait for a second zap.
And then another turn beyond that.
Big Bad Voodoo's a friendly minion. I just looked.
Oh, it is a friendly minion. Okay.
Apologies there. Obviously we should know every corner of interaction.
Yeah, but it doesn't come up very much.
This is the stuff that they're thinking about. And also, here's another
Muzzy
thing.
moused over it and targeted it at the.
Yeah, I think he's trying to scare him. He's trying to scare Fr0zen.
So Ancestral Spirit can still work on enemy minions. I had that come up. Someone use it on my Siege Giant.
I don't make mistakes. I bury them.
Wait. Fr0zen played it early?
That's okay. He can still Inner Rage, Devastate his Town Crier, and then hope that there's no Hex.
Oh, you're right.
So Voltaic Burst can get Hex.
The Hex and the Silence. He's afraid of the Ancestral Spirit.
So Muzzy mousing over with the Big Bad Voodoo, even though he couldn't play, he was afraid that was just Ancestral Spirit.
So Muzzy bluffed Fr0zen?
So Muzzy bluffed it.
Oh, wow. This is...
And bluffed that it was Ancestral Spirit. Or Fr0zen just kind of knows. Oh, my goodness.
Okay, so now these Witch's Cauldron, Muzzy needs to go big, but also Fr0zen doesn't have a way to kill it yet. So by doing damage through a Voltaic Burst through the Elementals, he's also giving Fr0zen outs for the zap. And maybe Muzzy's doing math now.
So he doesn't have to...
If he takes 8 damage for the next, 6 turns? He's at 40. He should still be okay life-wise. Right?
Yeah.
So he's gaining life.
So he only has to wait until second zap.
Right. So the condition hasn't changed. He's not going to go for the out unless he absolutely needs to.
Yeah. And Fr0zen's 5 damage into fatigue.
Yeah, so 3 more turns. He's going to die. And Muzzy mathematically has no reason to do anything. He can just pass.
And so Fr0zen, the math works out. Wait, it's a mech. He's a Mecharoo in his Undertaker.
Oh yeah, because it summons the Joey bot. But I think does it work in the order that it activated? Like maybe Mechathune was gained first, therefore its Death Rattle will trigger first, and it checks after. So therefore, like okay, so if Death Rattle's trigger in a certain sequence, the Mecharoo would go second, but because the first condition to Mechathune was met first, the game is over.
This would be
I don't know if that's actually the case. It could be.
Mechathune was played first.
Right. So it could be. No, even in the sequence of animation.
Oh, the sequence of animation, it dies and
could be.
Mechathune takes priority.
I need Disguise Toast on the case, because I think he would make a good video explaining all of these interactions and mechanics, which I never knew I needed to know until this very moment. Specifically with the way it interacts with Shaman spells too, but the damage here is not enough, and Muzzy can just keep waiting. No zap. The Soul Thrace is extra damage. Muzzy's happy to see that. And that should set up a 2-turn lethal here, because then he could just punch in with Direwolf Alpha. That's why he set up the Wind Fury. He's ready to go. Muzzy's crossed every T and dotted every I. Blast Shield does complicate the math a little bit.
But not really. Fr0zen needed Zap the last turn.
Yeah.
That was his only out. And then Muzzy even had outs beyond that with Voltaic Burst. It could have picked him up extra damage, or it could have picked him up a Hex.
Is this lethal? So 4, 5, plus 9, plus 10,
yeah.
Plus the extra fatigue. This should be it.
Yeah.
I mean, Muzzy could just pass, but he does have lethal this turn. With the double Direwolf Alpha. The Mecha.
Wow.
I thought it had inevitability, but Muzzy able to shut down and zone out all of Fr0zen's options and even introduce a slight buff to force Fr0zen's hand. I mean, even bluff or not bluff, no bluff, it felt like Fr0zen recognized that he was running out of time because of how deep he was into fatigue. That was great. I really enjoyed that game.
That game really testing our very fringe case scenario game mechanic.
I was not.
How often
I was not
does
anticipating Witch's Cauldron to come in there.
Witch's Cauldron, Big Bad Voodoo cannot target enemy minions, and then the Mecharoo on the Undertaker doesn't matter because it will resolve first. At least that's what we assume.
The best part is that, like, what if that was just nothing? What if that was like a Frost Shock? And he just targeted the Mechathune just to scare his opponent a little bit. Because Muzzy ended up not even using a lot of the Shaman cards he got. He used like Lava Burst to the face. He
Voltaic Bursted once.
Yes, and that's about it. Like everything else was just a threat of it and forcing Fr0zen to panic. That was an awesome conclusion to game number 2. And there's only one more game left of this series, and we'll find out what ends up happening when we come back. Don't go anywhere. We're just getting started with kickoff weekend here in the Hearthstone Grandmasters.
The cards see a heart that is stony, and a totem that's all kinda bony. This witch in such danger will soon be no stranger, 'cause she's gonna be our new crony. We welcome you into this room, and we promise your enemies doom. Just one more who's coming. The last one I summon is a fella who makes things go boom.
So you're probably wondering why I gathered you here. Let me take a moment and break it down. We've been given black eyes by the good guys. Oh, but that's about to change. Those meddlesome mortals who've mucked up our missions will finally feel some of our pain. You see, I have a devious plan that requires a demonstrative fist. And each of you will have your dreams come true as a fiendish finger of bliss. What? All right. Let me try this again. Alone, all our dreams went. Kaboom! Yes, but united we'll take the candle. No figure.
I'm seeing what you want to do.
Let me hit it.
We'll come together so we can dismantle.
Now here's the plot to capture your greed and intrigue. We'll take Dalaran for all that it's got. As we form an evil league.
Game number 3 is on the horizon here between Muzzy and Fr0zen. It's been a very fun game number 2. Very exciting end there. And a lot of questions that open up for us that maybe we need answered. You know, Fr0zen had that Mecharoo thrown into the death battle pool, and we're like, that one came off of a Mega Assembly, so maybe he shouldn't have played his Mecharoo because it would have disrupted.
Honestly,
I don't know that interaction. I got to be honest here.
I don't either. And we'll have to check on that later, but it's not something that's common knowledge, because even this Undertaker package hasn't been in this specific iteration of Mechathune Warrior. Hasn't been around for that long. So
that's right. Still kind of new.
Still kind of new. I don't know how many players have gotten to the point where they had played a Mecharoo at some point in the game and then had to play Undertaker to be the activation for their Mechathune, because it only is relevant in the mirrors, really, and it's only relevant if you get exactly Mecharoo from the Mega Assembly. So we need everybody on the case. Go play your Warrior mirrors. You have time, trust me. But both players are queuing their secondary decks once again, so this is a mirror match from the last game that we just saw. We'll see if it pans out any differently, but Muzzy looked like nothing was really going his way for a while. Fr0zen, his Hecklebots didn't do anything. Fr0zen assembled his combo early on. He was able to empty his hand reasonably so. But then Geppetto Joybuzz and the Town Crier, being the last maidens to stick on board, just made it so that he couldn't activate that Undertaker, couldn't empty his board. So, but we're a new game. Hecklebot still do some nasty things in this one.
Yeah, it could. Fr0zen doesn't have his Mechathune or his Geppetto Joybuzz. Mechathune, not that big of a deal to pull out early. The Joybuzz and the Undertaker, though, hurt a lot more.
I must choose.
Mainly the Undertaker.
I wonder.
Little bump here from Muzzy, just trying to reduce the amount of board presence that Fr0zen can have. Has that Hecklebot on 4, which would be a big pivotal point.
So with this hand, there are 8 minions left in Fr0zen's deck. Oh, sorry, 9, 10. 10 minions left in Fr0zen's deck. He's got 2 Eternium Rovers, 1, 2. 1 Acolyte Pain, 3. 1 Omega Devastator, 4. Double Dynomatic, 5, 6. Harrison Jones, 7. Undertaker, Geppetto Joybuzz, Mechathune. That's 10. The only one that guarantees... Actually, there is none that guarantee winning through Hecklebot. If he pulls Mechathune, the Undertaker is still there. If he pulls Geppetto Joybuzz, you still have Mechathune, Undertaker. And if you pull the Undertaker, then you still have Geppetto Joybuzz Mecha'thun. So there's not a single Hecklebot that wins the game. He needs both Hecklebots to come out to win the game.
That's fair.
So that's the funny thing.
That makes that even cooler. You know, the fact that Geppetto Joybuzz is there is a really good caveat in case you experience the Hecklebot going wrong.
Now, the Undertaker is the best pull because then if he draws Mecha'thun before Geppetto Joybuzz, then Geppetto Joybuzz all of a sudden isn't active. So Mecha'thun has to find a way to kill his own Mecha'thun, which against Bomb Warrior is not that easy because we saw last game he's going to be in fatigue. Bombs could matter later on in the game.
Right.
So the Undertaker is honestly the best pull from Hecklebot because Mecha'thun gets pulled, Undertaker's still active.
Maybe Fr0zen can mitigate a lot of that, assuming this isn't get pulled by saving a little bit more resources, right? Like saving a shield slam.
He would have to save a shield slam.
Right.
Otherwise, he's
he was playing a little bit too liberally with it.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't have to, but it's not a great thing to rely on. Your Mecha'thun just winning you the game without ever activating it, right? Forcing your opponent to kill it. Because we saw last game, Muzzy can navigate around those things, especially since he's almost certainly going to have the life total advantage because Fr0zen's not going to be putting on aggression.
Yes.
So very interesting matchup, Dan. Very interesting.
Yeah, a lot more depth and nuance to it than I thought, because it also comes down. So the main thing that I'm realizing about this matchup as I watch it unfold more is the nuance of what do I save versus how aggressive do I actually play. And Fr0zen's playing so much more tempo-oriented this game.
Yeah, he doesn't.
Neither player has armor. This is not supposed to be the case.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Fr0zen, especially with the memory of what happened last game, he's going to be pulling the trigger on his resources.
He's ahead on tempo.
Yeah, he does not want to get caught like he did last game with a rogue town crier, just essentially losing him the game at the end, which is kind of the funny part.
Yes.
Wow, I played Town Crier and I lost the game. You don't often hear those words strung together.
That is a good draw. Weapons Project, Harrison Jones. That's exactly what Fr0zen is looking for. Although I kind of wonder if he wants to save it for the Wrench Caliber. That is a dynamic that we kind of been seeing a little bit here. Like, am I taking too much damage from the bombs? And Fr0zen's at 21.
That belongs in a museum.
No draw with the Harrison. I wasn't even considering this possibility.
What? What?
I mean, I was thinking that you wanted to get deeper into the deck, but Fr0zen may be thinking that he went too far into fatigue and he wasn't, and as a result, like gave Muzzy an opportunity just to play completely reactively, which is what his deck wants to do.
But the problem is, you have to be in fatigue to win the game, essentially.
Because they have
With this
Luciana. You're never going to beat them in fatigue.
You're never going to beat them in fatigue, so you don't play the fatigue matchup. Yes, he lost by fatigue damage last game, but that had nothing to do with the fact that he drew too many cards.
Is it because he knows his opponent has a Dr. Boom on 7? Also known as Dr. 7?
But he had no bombs in his deck. He played one Clockwork Goblin, and that bomb was drawn.
Okay.
So it would just be a 7-mana 7/7. Cool.
Or just Mad Genius and maybe pressure his opponent's life total.
So
It seems like Fr0zen just favors a tempo-oriented game plan and then will draw aggressively once he dumps his hand.
So now the pressure his opponent's life total is the only one that it can get behind. It's still fringe, and I still like drawing better, but it's the only one I can get behind because in a case where, let's say, Undertaker does get pulled out by the second Hecklebot, and he has to rely on killing his own Mecha'thun if he draws Mecha'thun before Geppetto Joybuzz, which he's done now.
Right.
Then by having his opponent at a lower life total, it means that Muzzy is on a much shorter clock because he has to win the game. He has to kill Fr0zen before Mecha'thun kills Muzzy.
Well, I think
so that's the only thing I can think of.
The alternative, I think, might, and this might probably be the closest to the correct answer now that we're rationalizing it, is that Fr0zen will be using 2 of his weapon removals, and that means he can't answer both the Wrench Calibers. But by playing a tempo Harrison, maybe he's giving Muzzy the opportunity to feel safe and then play Wrench Caliber, and then he can Weapons Project right back. Because the thing is, if Fr0zen gets really close to fatigue, the problem with using Weapons Project Coin Harrison is that he gets deeper to fatigue, and that means that the bombs are going to be much more powerful.
Yeah, but honestly, the problem with that line that I see is that I don't think trying to bait him into using Wrench Caliber is that enticing. I think that you just hold on to Harrison Jones to get rid of the Wrench Caliber anyway. But I see your point.
So the Harrison Jones tempo play gives him the maximum board presence to fight against Muzzy in case he has some kind of powerful 7-mana minion board development. It also gets cards out of his hand, which seems to be a problem in this deck.
Sure.
And then lastly, he needs to have a contingency plan in case Muzzy goes for the big bomb setup when Fr0zen decks out.
Sure. Okay.
So I think that's kind of what he, a little bit of what he's thinking. Because he's playing so aggressively, and it makes sense given that strategy.
Okay. We found it, or you found it, better yet.
Let the
We found
pain
it,
speak to me.
Win together, lose together.
Ride or die kind of guy. Dynamatic. Spray and pray. Gonna try to hit his own Acolyte. Does, but looks like most of it went to his opponent's minion. Wanted to get one extra card. Muzzy's big limiting factor is his limited resources, but he does have 2 Omega Assemblies. Geppetto Joy Buzz. If he picks up a cheap Undertaker, Fr0zen will be in good standing to finish this game strong.
Whew. Whew. All right, so now he only needs Inner Rage.
Yes, so you can part ways with Devastate.
Yep.
Dynamatic kills his own Geppetto Joy Buzz. So now is Fr0zen on the line of thinking
It
that
doesn't kill it, but it.
or sorry, he's trying to kill it.
Yeah. That would be funny because that's pretty much a play that's he's only making, or he would only make because of what happened last
game. Yes.
And you can't have that recency bias when you're playing
Yes.
competitive Hearthstone. Yes, you can get punished by kind of these fringe case scenarios every once in a while, but you can't let that affect your decision making moving forward. I don't think that was the right play. I think this is the right play. Clocking your opponent for 6 at this stage in the game is much better than ensuring you don't have a Geppetto Joy Buzz 10 turns from now, clogging up board space for your Mechathune.
Muzzy's very far behind on the board and the life total, so not going to be able to close out the game very soon, but looks like he's digging for more options here with the Mega Assembly.
Yeah. And I'm just going to point out, games feel weird when mechs don't have rush.
Does feel a lot more. It does feel a lot more fair, I gotta say. Militia Commander rushing in for the damage.
Trying to get stuff on the board. All right. Time to play a 10-10.
Yeah, no silence in Muzzy's deck. It wouldn't even matter. He needs to transform. That's where the Tinkmaster Overspark comes in.
Now, that'd be the ultimate secondary deck.
I put that as a tertiary deck because one thing that was kind of interesting to hear from some of the players who are preparing. A lot of players told me that in Specialist, on average, across like almost all the Open Cups from their experiences, is that they use their tertiary deck like less than 5% of the time.
Yeah, but the tertiary deck is there to, in this case, almost every player in the Americas built their tertiary deck to be specifically Mage. There's Super Colliders, Big Game Hunters, and extra Omega Devastator in almost every tertiary deck, and that's specifically designed to beat Mage. And there's a low percentage of mages, so that's understandable that they use it such a small percentage of the time. I honestly think that Muzzy, with his deck, could have cut a Baleful Banker and added in a Tinkmaster Overspark. I don't think that's a terrible plan. Or, in his tertiary deck, you could... Tinkmaster Overspark still has game against Mage. Putting an 8-8 into a 5-5 is actually really good because it also reduces the cost of it to negate the Conjurer's Calling. While it still makes it powerful if you get the Devil Sword, it's not nearly as powerful. So let's say, I don't know, you cut one of the Big Game Hunters for a Tinkmaster Overspark, all of a sudden you have extra game against these combo decks. Now, if we see this trend from Americas where players are bringing Bomb Warrior as their primary with Mecha'thun in their secondary, we'll probably start seeing things like that in tertiary decks. But for week 1, we talked about it earlier, level 1, this is just the week that everybody's kind of trying to feel it out, and probably not a smart bring in week 1. Want to go a little bit safer.
Yep.
But definitely something to talk about for the future, Dan.
All right. Fr0zen was thinking about this Acolyte Dynomatic setup. He would have the ability to also play the Weapons Projects. Oh, so he wouldn't have the ability to play Weapons Project, right? Because that's 4 mana. No, he could just coin out the Weapons Project in that case.
Coin may be something that he values to have an extra bit of redundancy.
So he'd be playing 4 cards and drawing 3. He wouldn't be full-handed for the bombs. Yeah, okay.
Because coin allows you to flex. Actually, it doesn't really do anything because your Undertaker's at 1 mana. You can do everything you could possibly want. You could use Interrage, sure, because you have Whirlwind.
Right.
You can even use Whirlwind because you have Warpath.
I'm interested by that.
Wait, no, you can't use Warpath. Does the Echo card from Warpath, does that count as a card in your hand for Mecha'thun? That's another one. Oh my gosh.
Muzzy recognizing Dr. Boom Mad Genius only gives Rush, doesn't give Charge. Devastate. Fr0zen gonna brawl this board, hoping that the unpowered Steambot wins.
But at the same time, getting rid of the brawl, which, as we've seen, has been a card to remove.
Yeah, now Dynomatic should definitely come down here. Or some kind of way to draw the cards.
To me. Light the fuses.
And those draws means that Hecklebot, in Muzzy's mind, gets much weaker. Not that it would actually do anything. Fr0zen needs to find a way to dump his cards in some capacity. Is he thinking about utilizing like this other weapons project, perhaps? Or
I mean, he gets coin armor up.
okay, he's getting as much life as possible to avoid the big bomb combos. Because I mean, that's maybe something Muzzy was waiting for a while.
Yep.
Keeping his hand lean and mean. That's the important thing as for Fr0zen. He's total hand. His total hand costs 12 mana, so he can just keep spending it. The problem is that Warpath, like he said, does have that echo effect.
Hecklebot, I think the only minion left might be Attorney of Roper.
Could be. I think Muzzy might go for the Clockwork Gnome, Baleful Banker play again, and then maybe draw with the shield block. Oh, is he going for Dr. Boom Mad Genius? I don't know exactly what he wants off of Dr. Boom. Maybe it's the fact that he doesn't want to kill off his 1/1 now. He might just not do it. He's killing. Okay. So Dr. Boom gives him the ability to get something for disruption, like Delivery Drone might be able to help him in this capacity. And with the rush, he should be able to react to anything Fr0zen plays, because Fr0zen needs to play these minions.
Yeah. The problem here for Muzzy going for the game plan that he went with last game is
Save the best for last.
he doesn't have enough stuff to play onto the board to pressure, while also not giving Fr0zen things to trade into since all of his big stuff is gone. So if he plays things on the board to pressure, then Fr0zen just has more stuff to trade into his things. And he's just gonna go ahead and
needs to dump his hand. The echo effect is very annoying.
yeah.
3 more turns until Fr0zen decks out. Guaranteed. He's at 37 life with an extra bomb in his deck. I like this. Devastate could have the situation where none of his minions are damaged. Needs to find a way to ditch it. Logic checks out. Elysiana. Is that another way for Muzzy to potentially get out of this game?
I think Elysiana, he just got to pull the trigger now. I don't know what's left in his deck that he can try and go for unless he goes for big bombs. He doesn't have any augmented Elix, so his ability to just shuffle bombs in the deck once Fr0zen's in fatigue is very limited. I wonder if Muzzy's going to have to recognize soon that his best way to win is going to be to get something from Archivist Elysiana that can pull out something from Fr0zen, some kind of combo disruption.
Right. Fr0zen picks up Warpath, so he can use that next turn. Like this turn, he can remove this 7/7 with the Shield Slam. Weapons Project number 2 doesn't care anymore, just wants the life and the mana expenditure. What's in Fr0zen's deck that he's trying to spend his mana aggressively?
I think
Does he still have his Blast Master? No, he took out Blast Master.
He took out Blastmaster Boom. I think the only thing, he has like a Eternium Rover. I don't know if he played the first one,
right,
but he definitely played another one, and he has 2 copies in the deck. Yeah, he took out the full bomb package. He drew Dynamatic with his Geppetto Joy
This would
Buzz.
be a good time for a master.
Whatever he has left in his deck is cheap, is relatively cheap. And he has Warpath to be able to kill off whatever he plays.
Yeah. Fr0zen's learned all the mistakes he made from the previous game. Like, even, like you're talking about, a Mech Assembly, only for 1, so he has less minions
Just
to play.
less minions to play,
Less
yeah.
minions to play. I think that's the kind of stuff that you have to reverse engineer, like, all of your unoptimized plays. And, like, as we are watching, we're kind of learning how to play the deck correctly, too, which is pretty cool. There seems to be a lot of nuance to that.
Yeah. And
on the other side, what does Muzzy even do? I mean, like, normally you're like, huh, Harrison Jones on like a 3 durability weapon, that seems pretty good, but Muzzy's best play is to simply just go as ham as he can, and he's gonna try to shuffle bombs, he's gonna try to deal damage and develop.
Yeah, but I honestly think at this point, his best win condition, even though it's only small percentage points regardless of which play he goes with, I think Dr. Boom, he hadn't had Dr. Boom equipped, we forgot about that.
Forgot about it.
Yeah, but I think honestly his best play at this point would be to play Archivist Elysiana when he drew it and try and go for something crazy. Even though any play he made, very low percentage to win the game. Because now this last card is just a bomb.
Well, then Muzzy with a Whirlwind would only be able to deal... Right.
Because Fr0zen just wins next turn.
Yep.
Okay, then.
Is it a bomb?
Well, Muzzy didn't have exact information on what minions were pulled on the Geppetto Joy Buzz, but, you know, I think he's kind of realizing that he's cornered.
He drew the bomb, so I don't think his last card is a bomb unless I lost track of the bomb somewhere.
Right.
Which is definitely possible. Definitely possible.
Yeah, and these picks, I think, don't even matter because Muzzy has no way to draw or capitalize on it. And, I mean, Fr0zen, unless barring some absolute disaster by accidentally hero powering and picking up the Boom Reaver, he is dead. Not enough time. Whew, deep sigh of relief. Fr0zen able to get ahead of Muzzy just enough. That was a big board it eventually got to. But he is going to end this game with the Undertaker Whirlwind. And this secondary tech pays off for Fr0zen in case he encountered other warriors.
I'm honestly pleasantly surprised, even though it added to our total game time today, that Muzzy was able to take a win with that deck and showcase some incredible understanding. But in the end, Fr0zen's tech works out, had redundancy against the Heckleboss, which was honestly Muzzy's anti-tech for this scenario. Hecklebot also, of course, Elysiana matchups has a little bit of extra benefit. Like if Muzzy assumed that players brought also his secondary deck, with double Baleful Banker, he needed the redundancy of Hecklebot. So very well played by Fr0zen and learning from some of the stuff that got in his way in the first game.
And Fr0zen's one of the few players who actually even has Mechathune in his secondary, tertiary decks. A lot of players, they didn't really account for that. They were saying, what can I do against mages? What can I do if I run into like the hunter or the rogues? or some other weird stuff that's out there like the chef priests. So I think the fact that Fr0zen has this mechathon and he's really ready for it means that he's in a good position to carry this momentum into later in the weekend. Every single Grandmasters session is going to be 2 matches for them throughout the weekend. So Fr0zen is going to keep this deck going into his next match.
Yeah, that's right. And I think Fr0zen is ready for us for a winners interview. Fr0zen, are you there, buddy? Can you hear us?
Yo, what's up?
Hey, man.
Hey, so congrats on your victory. The second game was pretty interesting to see, especially because of how differently you played game 3. So kind of level with us. Were you kind of learning the matchup and some of the things to optimize as the series was developing?
Yeah, it definitely was like. So I know before the games I did some practice and I knew like there's 3 Death Rattle minions that you really don't want to hit. It's like Weaponized Pinata, the Mechanical Whelp, and then there's one more. But I didn't expect the JoJo bot. I realized it after I played it mid-game. It's still a 50-50, I believe, that if the Mechathun goes first, that it still goes off. But Muzzy had like a really good pressure hand, and like I had a 6/6 at the end of my deck, so it was going to be really hard to clear it off. I knew near the end that I made a mistake. There was a few mistakes I made. I should have saved some like AoE removal for my minions that I didn't because I had a little bit of matchup inexperience. But everything went well in game 3 because I got the pull on the Undertaker with the Geppetto, so that it makes it way easier to go off when it's 1 mana.
For sure. Real quick question. At the end of game 2, Muzzy was hovering over your minions, your Town Crier with a spell. Did you read into that, or is that just you're like, okay, well, unless he does something, I'm not gonna like think about information because the Witch's Cauldron spells could be anything, so there's just a wide range of what it could be.
I'm guessing it was like hex because you want to hex it, and then like so there's a 0/1 that doesn't attack and does nothing. But
it was a big bad voodoo,
right,
which can't even target enemy minions. We think he was trying to go for some type of bluff because if he had gone with say like if he had an ancestral spirit, then it would have mean you had to have like back-to-back zap hero powers to go for it.
Yeah.
But definitely an interesting game, and I can assure you, Fr0zen, we were also learning that matchup alongside you. So there's a lot of interactions. I have a question for you. I don't know if you know this. I'm going to put you on the spot because Dana and I were put on the spot. Does the Echo card that you get from Warpath ruin the Mechathun combo? So let's say
It does not.
It does not. Okay.
Oh, so Warpath.
So you can Warpath once, and that could be your last card. You can use that to activate a Geppetto'd Undertaker and still have Mechathun go off?
Cool.
Yeah, because I know this because I've seen Fib play the Warrior, and sometimes the Whirlwind gets Unseen Saboteured, and if he has coin, he can go off with the Whirlwind. But I've not done it in person, so I didn't want to test it. And, like I've never done it in person myself, so I just did it really safe and got the Warpath out of the way.
That's right.
I wasn't sure if like there was any patches or changes, something like that, because I watched that a while ago. Also, I was really happy with how game 1 went out, since I'm pretty sure like we both never really played the matchup.
Oh, just straight up like Bomb Warrior versus Bomb Warrior, like no Elysiana, no tech cards whatsoever.
Yeah, like exactly. Like I think Muzzy made a huge mistake early, like mid game, like mid match. I kind of knew how the bombs was going to go out. Like if you want the bomb shuffled really early because you don't want to like pile them near the end so that you can like discard all of them. So you want the bombs to like go off throughout the match. And like Muzzy took a Clockwork Gnome mid game when I already had a lot of bombs in my deck. So I knew like from there that the game was going to be really in my favor because I had more bombs in my deck that I could mill out, and it went as planned.
You didn't even take a single bomb damage, I think, in game 1.
I think
right?
one early on.
Oh, was it one early on?
You negated 5 bombs, I believe I counted. So 25 life was negated with overdrawn bombs.
That's right.
Which is insane. That's insane.
I was like,
that's like Duke them.
Yeah, nicely done. Fr0zen, I mean, how big was it going up against Muzzy in week number 1? I think a lot of people weren't sure how to evaluate you because you've kind of been doing a lot more. You've been casting in China, for example, as opposed to competing. So how was it preparing for Grandmasters for, such an opponent like Muzzy?
I kind of expected Muzzy to be a little bit slower, so that's why I had the Mechathune. But since we prepped for 2 players, I know that Firebat likes to play more aggressive usually, so I tilted my deck, my first deck, versus more aggressive. It just so happened that Muzzy also didn't put Louisiana in his main deck, which really put me in a good spot.
All right, so Fr0zen able to calculate and target his opponents. Congratulations on your week 1 victory, and good luck in your next match against Firebat later this weekend.
Thank you very much.
All right, so the runner-up from the 2017 World Championship gets his first W, and Muzzy not off to the right foot, but, I mean, he hung in there, and in the end, he made it a pretty close series.
Yeah, definitely. I think that second game showing just Hearthstone mastery, right? Going in to a situation where not many people know what to do in that situation. You get Witch's Cauldron from Archivist to Elysiana, and then have to navigate from there. So Muzzy showing that still, even off of it gets disappointing for him and a lot of his fans' performance at the World Championship. He's still got it, man. He's still a threat.
Yeah, maybe a couple of things to tighten up here and there. Fr0zen bringing out some more matchup knowledge, even for me and DJ, because we're going to cast more Warrior Mirrors. So that's just the first match out of 5 that we have for today. Coming up next, we have Race versus Nalgidan, a battle between 2 Latin American brethren. Don't go anywhere. More Grandmaster action continues when we return.